I love the honesty. I mean, candidly, I love the honesty in the uncertainty. Shefty, we've been talking about this particularly since the podcast with Jim Gray. What do we know and what do we expect as far as Tom Brady's future?
Look, I don't think Tom Brady knows right now. I think that's the fact of the matter. But I think you heard him talk with Jim Gray on the podcast. And I think he was very transparent there about the uncertainty that awaits him in the offseason and how important it is to his family to have him back with them and maybe to not keep on playing. And so this is what Tom Brady has to go through. Look, there's no doubt the man's playing at an MVP level. He's still one of the best players in the game. He could play probably till he's 55, 65, 75 maybe, because he's that abnormal. But that's not the issue. There are other issues here. It's about being a part of your family, being a part of their lives, sacrificing so long. Do you want to keep doing that? So I think he's just going to take some time here, take some weeks, and ultimately come to a decision about what he wants to do when I don't think he knows right now what he wants to do. You heard Gronk say that if he had to make a decision today, right after the season, he'd retire. My guess is if Brady were asked a similar question, he probably would feel the same. But who knows what he's going to be feeling 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks from now. And that's why you take some time to decompress, process all the information, and come to a decision.
D. Wood, you're a family man who played a long time in the NFL yourself, and so you understand these considerations. And his wife, Gisele Bündchen, has made no secret of her concerns about him playing, about concussions and all the rest of that. And he pointed that out, that she hates to see him getting hit. And he got hit a lot in this game against the Rams. So when you consider the family piece of this, what does it lead to as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, listen, I speak for myself. My last game, I tore my Achilles in Indianapolis in the playoff game, and I remember my whole family was at the game. I come out of the tunnel, walk around, I had this boot on, and everybody started crying. And I knew in that moment, basically, it was time to go home. It was time to go home and spend a lot more time with the family and the kids, because Bart knows this, we give up so much when we play this game of football. So much time is just spent in the facility, doing this, doing that. And I think with Brady, the one thing I heard in that podcast with Jim Gray was the word satisfied.
Right.
Satisfied. That stuck out to me, because any elite, when we talk about the elite of the elite, the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, you never hear that. You never hear satisfied. Remember when Tom Brady, people asked Tom Brady, well, what's your favorite Super Bowl ring? He would always say, the next one.
Right.
And so when I heard that, my mind just went, man, this really might be it for Tom Brady.
You think he's done?
I mean, of course, I think we've all been there, right?
Yep.
We all had to make that decision, because so many people have to sacrifice for you to support your dream,
yep.
and they become smaller themselves, and then you have to ask yourself, at what point is it time for me to start supporting my kids' dreams, my wife's dreams, what she want to do in business?
Right.
And at some point, you realize that the majority, he's 45 years old. The majority, half of his life is over with. Right, and you have to understand what type of quality of life I want, and you have to try and get those relationships when you start looking at the fact that your kids are getting into high school, and before you know it, they're in college, and you don't know who they are if you don't have that connection. So it's important, and also it's about, I don't believe that they can put the same team together. So, I don't think they tried to run it back, and everybody took a little bit of a sacrifice. But now it's time for some of these young guys to get paid, and it's time for guys like Pierre-Paul, it's time for guys like Ndamukong Suh to move on. So that now he's talking about, okay, I'm not going to have potentially my coordinators. I'm going to lose some of my favorite targets, some of my best friends, and it's time for me to move on, because it's going to be a lot more hard. It's going to be a lot harder for me to get back to that pinnacle.
He will be 45 years old in August. Lewis, final word. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think we all reach a point in time as adults, man, where we know that every decision that we make is just not about us anymore. It's not just about us in a bubble. And when you have a family, when you have a wife and you have kids, it's about them. And really, you start making decisions based on what's best for them, not just for you. It's hard to play in the NFL. It's hard to play in the NFL one single year, let alone 21-plus years, let alone a quarterback who's 45 years old. No matter how much the game has gotten easier for him, it's difficult. It's exponentially more difficult every year for him to get up and try to climb the highest peaks of the mountain in the NFL, which is what Tom's standard is. At some point in time, if you are satisfied, if there are no worlds left to conquer, then it's time to move on. And as Damien alluded to, if he's starting to use the word satisfied, maybe he feels as though he has conquered all the worlds as far as the NFL is concerned that he needs to conquer, and that it's time to now start living through his kids and for his kids, in the sense of, it's time for me now to make decisions with them in mind first. So let's see.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.